بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. Although these non-dualistic Hunda orangutans talk about one homogenized cone, which is in fact no cone, or tohu, or tohi of Genesis 1-2, or void, or emptiness, or the vayu inside which the baboon Hanuman is bouncing up and down, which is in fact no cone, or Mandelbrottic fractal fart in Buddha Abadonic abdomen, or empty blank black hole. However, these dark Durga dragonic forces and Gogian gravities and sad and stagnant flatulent gases and vanity dharma holding weights and heavy hollows and nirvanic neurons, which are trying to prevent the highly happy light leap lava or the Christ resurrection, the thankfulness or firmamental flight and takeoff or formation, erection, rakia of the good dualistic form, know very well that Christ Ravana or the solar ceiling has moonrise rays rufa and saqful marfu'ah above their zen zilch or one homogenized cone, or the Taoist rat hole, or the yogic wilderness wine press, or the Brahman harmony hate hole, and has divided or badal bedelium or distinguished or ismused or alchemized or converted or changed or altered or baptized or change, convert, alchemize, sweeten, separate, jajat or faraq, fractured, between, amid, across, among, in the middle, vama bainahuma, in all of these verses, vama bainahuma, and what is between heaven and earth, the dark solar salt silent stench, or the loser lead ash salt, versus the light loud gold glad sweetly La ilaha illallah assured asurahiness or Yasmin Rosa. Not only the special relativity of Albert Einsteinian digit bodhisattva of Barack Babu Obama, Horace Falcon Beelzebub, or the golden Kafi Nazi Eagle Ejel Aqel Agol is the devilish counterfeit of BDCTN model arc, but also there even a string theory. Now again I blow up their TV, what they call that, these chimpanzees call that we are the geniuses, we made the TV. Their TV, Christ is the Tajalli TV screen of Asura 7 verse 143, or Exodus 33 verse 22, or the image of God of the Colossians 1:5, or basically the Tajalli TV screen of Allah. Their TV, their Big Bang, again, the Big Bang doesn't happen by a bang in a blank hole that is just vibrating. No, it needs a bang inside the blank, and that bang inside the blank again is the baqara'ing and the baqaras, or just sweetly, quickly and sweetly taking a look, it is called the accelerating riho qaduwaha shahran, or the exhales that are happening in baqara'ing inside the black hole, inside the blank hole, and then giving it the enough push for it to take place. And at this and then we have the ravaha shahran, or the inhaling, or basically moonsets that we have already read, the moonsets of the Genesis 1 as well as the moonrises. And the moonsets are basically the periods that are allowing the black hole to catch up to the Big Bang, or the Ishraq, Sharaq, Shriking, or the Shafaqing, or a spectacular cry, Qara'a Qur'ani roar of the seven thunder, or the Holy Quran Christ inside the nothingness. And so again here the slowing down is where the causal course of whatever is preventing something to happen remains high, so that it kind of extinguishes, and by doing that the happening or taking place, or the becoming of whatever is desirable and pushed forward to take place out of the pool of the probabilities is lasted longer. And so that's how the happening catch ups to the probabilities that are pushed up or pushed up out of the pool of probabilities. And again, the moonsets pull down whatever is not desirable, and also again gives time for that happening to happen. And we have six of those, and then the seventh one is the one in which we are, and then the eighth one that is right around the corner. And so these are the big bangs that are happening, and so even the big bang is plagiarized, because the blank the static stagnant cannot bang unless an external component or the factor inserts into it, and that is the Christ loudspeaker of Allah, that basically, or the bell of the seven churches that is 6 times belled by Allah, and that's how Allah has made this magnificent creation. And so not only their black hole, their relativity, but also their string theory is plagiarized. How? But also a string theory of these Hindu orangutans is a stolen concept from God-made notion, like nation or nashat, the God-made notion of natafs or maniya yumnas that we have it. And so the nataf or the droplet is not the sperm of a an earthly father, but it is the nataf, or the spirit sperms, or the water words of the Dead Sea that can be sweetened or receive love light. And so these natafs, or the sperms or nutfas, are literally what end time orangutan calls it, string theories, or the theoretical strings, or the spirits. And these strings, which are what we call them spirits, are in fact bounded to the membrane, to the physical M matrix membrane. In physics we call it M matrix membrane, or the M theory, or the mother membrane. And they are bounded to that, and so that is the malakuti membrane that can be towered or conglobulated around the heavy Mahishasurahi moon that comes into the darkness in order to shafaq shariks, or spectacularly shafaqali ishraq shariks, or cry Qurans, or word varada entries into the darkness. And that's how the bang can happen. And then the blank catch up to that bang, and then becomes what the bang has made out of it. That's the active force. And so we call it the natafs, or the sperm, spirit, string, semen, or even maniyu. We have two types of maniyu, or spirit, in Avesta. We have anger maniyu, or angry maniyu in English, or we have the spenta maniyu, or sepanta maniyu, or the Holy Spirit. And then the maniyu is again comes from the root word of like manna, or mani, which means, or manipura, or money, or mannan, or giving money, or munificence, or mine, like the weight. It is the even the name for a weight unit, man. When we say that God has given us manna, it means that God has given us a sperm, or God has favored us, or God has gracefully gifted us, or He has given or considered a weight for us, that we are precious, and so He is paying attention to us. And that means the manna, or money, the root word of the money, or man, human, man, or mind, or menu. Like menu means that you are pointing on something. In menu you say, I select this item. That's meaning the money. You're exerting your maniyat, or your nafs, or your ego to something, or your weight to something, or main. These are all the root words of that. And the main, or mani, or maniyun, is what we have it. And in that case we have the minu also in Hebrew, or not fatam maniya yumna. And so the string, or the spirit, we call it, we've been calling it historically, and at the contemporary time of the physicist bodhisattvas of this chimpanzee, we call it a string theory. These strings are what we call them not fatam maniya yumna, also there are the strings made from money or mass, dark matter, dark energy, mass, and that is the void. Okay, so you get the void, and then you wrap the void, and then you make a money. And God constantly reminds us that, hey buddy, don't get proud and pride parade in the streets of the Sodom and Egypt. You are nothing but a mani yumna. You are nothing but a ejaculated sperm, or the muladrai menstruation of the Mother Earth, or the hellhole, or the Gaia gap in 3 levels of Trishula Sheol. You are nothing but a vibration of empty, stagnant, that I gave form to you and then made a nataf, or a string from you, and that is abomination, that is vainly vibrating, unless it is turned into a badal bedelium Christian, or naturally selected by God to become something that is not, that has a component that is not in the realm of the anger maniyu, but is in it turn into a sepanta maniyu, or a holy spirit, or and that is not even you or me. We are simply ethosing, or ata'ating, or receiving the breeze of God, or blood of Christ, or rain of Ravana, or a running river of life droplet, and that's it. And so again, the manna, al-manna, comes from here. Mining, main, mini, these are all derivations of that man, or which means again the dark matter, dark energetic mass, weight, amount, measure, chunk, or apportion, allocation, selection, which is weighted, drained, ejaculated, minded, mind, chosen, given, valued, emitted from, out of, min nutfatan iza tamanna, tumanna, or vaginal menstruation of Gaia gap, or empty, or hot, hollow, mani padme and that's it. And there Barak Buddha Abaddonic bowl of black Big Bang. This bulge of the black Big Bang is an evil, foul, ephalion, foolish inversion of the real Big Bang baqara'ing, because this sperm, or this string, theoretical strings, which are not theory, God has already mentioned it, these strings cannot take place unless an active force, baqaras, or bokars, Genesis 1:5, Genesis 1:8, Genesis 1:13, Genesis 1:19, Genesis 1:23, Genesis 1:31, or baqaras, or big bangs, or daybreaks, or dawns, or moonrises, or in it, from and that's how they receive time, space, or in other words, they are initiated or commenced from the white now hole that we call it hall, and that is the cow cross clock center, and this hole again is synchronized with the Allahi white now whole throne, or the epicenter of the heavenly day. And so of Isahi ecstasy, cow cross clock, whose Mahisha Surah Assyrian Ashurahi, happiness of having Allah in his heart, of Holy Allahi white hole, and holy hooping at ahroundahi hawl al-arsh من حولها or havilahi hall, which means around a skin shell of holy Allahi white hole, or now moment, that's the meaning of the hall, gets him solar singularity self, or this Christ white hole, inside the blank hole of home, of heated home, to synchronize his circularly surrounding Havila Hola in the inside the Galilee night, with the truthful timer of the real existence that is existing inside the photo album of the eternal life, or the faith family of eternal Eden day, that is ticking at his back and behind and beyond. Okay, and so that is where the bangs, the real Baqara'ing big bangs, or the cow Mahisha Surah is coming. The cow Mahisha Surah is his real name is Baqara'ing, and Baqara Hebrew strong 1242. We can again see those Baqara'ings here. We have one first day, and that is the evening and the morning. This morning is Baqara'ing or Baqara'ing, and with each Baqara'ing, then we get one Arab or Qurub, and then each Qurub is the time that Baqara'ing stimuli is actualized, and the probabilities are formed, and then the next Baqarah happens, and then the next Qarab or Qurub reaches to that, or the becoming process catch up to the Quma time, or from the pool of the probabilities they are kum or quma or qammed up, and again for becoming what we want, what the evening means. That evening means that the factors that are undesirable for that happening to take place will be cut from their causal course, and then the factors that help a favorable result to happen and take place will be sustained and prolonged and delayed and and that is how the happening takes place inside the nothing, inside an empty, hot, hollow, static As I said before, our brains are not generators of consciousness. Our brains are eta'ating antennas and receivers, which either focus on Christ Karimi God TV channel of Tajalli Television, Exodus 33:22, Asura verse 7, 143, or Colossians 1:15. Again, if we look quickly to 7143. Unfortunately, they are butchering my brothers in India, everywhere, and must catch up to them in their shamble and slaughter us. Let me see. Al-Jabal Fasafata. Falamma tajalla. And so when Allah did what?
Tajalla.
Tajalla. How does Allah do tajalla upon one of the mountains or the vales of the Dead Sea or the Galilee Garden? He is tajallaing behind his TV screen. Again, if you are a high-class creator, okay, and then you are working with abomination, with a wine press of empty vanity and selfish proud, then it is too filthy for you to work with it directly. So you need a vicarious hand, like this type of the gloves that you put, and then you do something in microbiologic labs with kind of prosthetic hands from behind the screen. That is precisely the case. That's the way of looking at Christ. Tajalli, reveal, that's the revealing, or the, again, in the Colossians 1:15, we can precisely see that, and he is an icon of Allah, or in other words, he is the lower part or the escatani part of the higher cone, and that is how he is tajalla, or he is the revelation of Allah upon the earth. Okay, and so when this is happening, we say that again in Exodus 33:22, we read that Moses is grabbed the nataf, or the mani yomna, or the money, or the mind, or the main. Where is the main? The main zarriya or zurriya, or particle of the Moses is grabbed by the sha'airullah, or the hair rays of Christ, or in the mengar, or the beak of the Homa bird Sa'adat, we call it, or the Hauma bird of Sa'adat. Let's go to Exodus 33:22, and then we see here Allah says that, and it shall come to pass while my glory, who is the glory of Allah, that is the Christ, pass by, that I will put thee in. It is not in the cleft, it is, okay, cleft, fissure, but it is coming from naqar. What is naqar? It is coming from mengar, or which means piercing, something that for the beak is used. This is one of the metaphors that are used repeatedly in the Sufi poetry, that Allah is keeping with the cleft, or the hair rays, or the white wools of the Christ moon. And then Allah says that I will take, says to Moses that I will put thee in a cleft of the rock. Who is the rock of Allah? This rock is the Tajalli television, or the revelation rock. Revelation rock is what we have it here. This is the Tajalla. Falamma tajalla rabbuhu lil-jabal. Okay.
فلما تجلى ربه للجبل
جعله dakka, or Allah dig down, or dakka, and then وخر موسى صعقا, and then the Moses fell down unconscious. That tajalla is happening from, or the revelation of Allah is happening not directly but indirectly through the Christ rock, or sur or musawwar. And I will cover thee in my, who is the kaf of Allah, in my hand, or the kaf, kaffa or kaftor, and that is again in my rock disc or the Daydor disc. And while I pass by, or my glory pass by, and that is Allah in fact, and that is how Allah is abaring or oburing, or Allah is basically releasing his sha'a'irullah, and that sha'a'irullah is coming from here, from the white hall, the now moment that gives existence to everything. Hall, elapse, now, the moment, the present time, the time being. This is the hall, or hole in English, the white hole, or we call it the throne. And this is the epicenter of the creation. And that is how the tajalli happens. And so our brains are ethosing antennas, receivers, which either focus on Christ the Karimi TV channel of Tajalliyah of Allah, or the Tajalli television of Allah, or tantric porno channel of Barack Baboon Obama Dajjal, of the sever shova su sayyat shava. And so here in this tantric porno channel, what makes it more perotica, that is destruction, violence, blood, and you name it, fetish sex, and destruction of everything, and getting it to get to the home, and at the end, for what reason? For dharmaing to the or for the number one law of the dead forces in the universe, or the drag forces in the universe, that we don't want to quma or roof or marfu or raise up. Very good. We want to collapse inside this weight, inside the dark matter, dark energetic weight. We don't want, we use the word, we flirt around with everybody, and we enjoy the creation, and we enjoy the language that God has given us for communication, but we are the parasitic angry minui spirit. And so the angry minu spirit, all that it wants is more violence and more porno, and that is exactly what the angels tell to that the basic tenet of man is nothing but a monster, unless the blood or breeze or glory of Allah gets to us again. And Allah told to Adam, well, it is I think 30, yes. And here the angels are saying that, are you putting someone that is gonna make a porno TV, or yasfekodam, or will shed dama? How do you shed dama? You blue nukes, you make science, and then you go for more power in order to reach to a more sophisticated ways of massacres. If 300 years ago a cowboy was sitting behind a Gatling cannon and butchering the Native Americans in Canada or in the States, nowadays the same cowboy sits behind a drone, and instead of the bullets, he drops mother of all bombs upon the humans that are called as terrorists, or like this orangutan, as we will see, the pathetic horn of chimpanzee Obama, the Apollyon, that is talking about the precision strike of a saint of Christ like Saint Qasim Soleimani, and then they are proud of having the precision strike. And so again, the powerful has become more powerful and the powerless has become less powerless, unless we understand that the real power is not in the destruction power or the Shiva Shova Sayyat Su power or the severing power, because this is the god of the Sodomites that loves to sever anything that exists in a natural way, and then it calls, that's how it tries to conquest the nature. However, the real power is not in Yasfakot Dama. It is not in the bloodshed or in these orangutans, the owners of the Pentagon, of the US government, of the Gog&Magog, or the Xi Jinping baboon zombie monster in China. They call themselves deterrence power or whatever hell that means, or the Putin pit, the dole of the Barack Obama, are using their power for this Yasfakodama, or the destruction power. But the real power is here. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَهُ الْأَسْمَاء, or the Shamaim, or the Sham, or the ism, or the name, or the words, or the language is breathed into Adam. And the language that we are using is more powerful, because if we know that the language has a backbone, and the backbone of the language is the realm of the meaning, or the realm of the dictionary, of the definitions, no matter how we are trying to make a modern psychology in which sodomy and homosexuality is not a mental condition, but here it is a mental condition. It is an anger mainui detriment for the health of the society, and it must be stoned to this, otherwise it rapidly propagates itself and gets numerous innumerable casualties, like the end time society. And one of those casualties is actually half of me, or whose name is Emily. And so if previous generations, they've been acting more faithfully and performing what Bible and Quran has been wanting from them, and stoning this virus and fighting this virus as the almond immune system of the earth, then we wouldn't have been fallen into this sad catastrophe of the end time, in which we are now. All of the theories and the elephant Ganesha philosophies, or the Hermes Trismegistus, or the Thoth, or the Hupu, Ibis, elephantosophies, and scientific stories, which are falsely fabricated and developed by a bunch of moksha sock masons and Shakyamuni Zen monkeys of the Ziavus, Diavus, Dayus, or Div. We call it in Avesta Daeva, or Div in Persian language, comes into English language, becomes devils, or Zeus, Deus, or Divus, dragging Dracula, are nothing but ugly lies or i.e. Shiva Kali sever destroyed beauty, and that's how the disk can parasitically lives. Or the superpositionically disintegrated life. Again, because the superposition doesn't work unless you forget about the one component, and that is the love or the language or the meaning, because love doesn't mean love. When you put love and then you reach to love, you have something added than 4 letters, and that is the meaning, that is the word, or that is the definition that is outside of the letters. Or the omnoisically chopped off harmony and messianic melody that is love lightfully Big Bang Bella from Cowcross clock, or the tick-tock talking tambura of Holy Allah, or the guitar of Allah, player, composer. Although due to their hairy creativities and their nuclear fissions of heavy hollow fractal zilch or empty energy, or eshkol ashkal ashkal eshkalik shakelik fractal maya mud mirage that farts and flows وهذا الأنهار تجري من تحته. That's what precisely the Pharaoh fart says in 43:51 inside the spring of dark mud. That can you see that I have this much of dark matter and dark energy coming out from underneath me. From Pharaoh Siddhartha's Satyaloka Lake Spider House, these genius orangutans and sober scientists and cannibalizers of reality and adult apes in tuxedos can clap for each other and give Nobel Prizes to each other, but the good and real contribution and a Belahi creativity of our species was to poetically praise and praise and offer and make love with the Holy Allahi Love Lord, who can bring life out of burnt fractal fuel foam. And again, that's what the Abel did, but the Cain is the genius of the story, and the genius of the story is mad at the poetic spirit of or the love-making spirit of the Abel, that is a shepherd and is sacrificing for Allah and is bringing his best sheep to offer praises with the very same words that Allah has given to them. And so in this solar source or real reference or BDCTN model arc of figure 7, we must pay attention to the two feluca floor bed plane membrane slab foundations of the experience. Whether the heavenly experience time or the earthly experience time, in which pilgrim people are synchronized with Cowcross clock's heavenly experience time. The higher cone, or the heavenly experience, or the daytime, or the 7 skies, or the Sab'u Samawat, or the Hashem sun disk Sama hearing Shamaims, or the Bismillah hearing, or Samaing, or Sufi Samaing, or Samaing Shamaims, the sham 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 sham, is resting upon Christ's foundation, or the Eskatani Ismos, or Barzakh, and the low down, or Sama Dunya Esteska, or the lowest sky, that we call it eighth sky, or the Sama Dunya Shama, in which the moon rock radio or the Ruh Ravanahi disc can be heard, because in the hell you cannot see the mercy of God, you cannot hear the Christ, you cannot hear the rock radio, or you cannot see the TV Tajalli television. But in the Sama ad-Dunya, you can see the moonshine. You are not still in the underground. You are not in the hellhole. You are not in the Sheol. And the lowest sky, or the eighth sky, or Sama ad-Dunya, is where still the Sama can happen, and that is how our hearts, or our mani, or the main mans, or real weights that are baptized, can still hear God in the Malakuti membrane. Or the nighttime, or the earthly experience, or the lower cone, is resting upon the Felukai film, or the Malakuti plane membrane, or the Mamari membrane, and that is the place of Mamar, or Obur, and Morur, or Marraing, or Yabeshil, dry land, which is stabilized, or iron dam, Radma, at the Assyrian land, at its inflection point, or the Hitan, or the Hite, or Khatam Suleiman, or Khatm, or where the word lines are placed, or the boundary, or the Anthroposi, Tarf, Tripi, Akhtar, or the diameters of it, or the utmost opening hole, or the water light gate, by being cooled, or Euphrates, or the Taqtir Koteratet, so that it can separate this is the second ismos, between Bainana wa Bainahum of 1894, between Christian plots versus Vishnuic wilderness of Magogi monsters, or Azabul Mahin, that is mentioned in 34:14, or the Salt Sea, or the Baha'i dark desert of the Brahmini baboons, or the Khiti Hut Hayat Duniyai, marine life of the dead salt water sea. And thus, because of being taht, or under it, by it I'm talking about the damned plane, okay, the plane that is stabilized, or iron dam, the Malakuti plane that is damned, or has received the word lines, the outer periphery, the outer wall of the outer courtyard, that it has that is safeguarded by Khatam Suleiman, or Khatm, or the Hiram, or the Harim, or the iron dam, or the Had, or the Hadid, or Mahdude, or the Khitan, or the Khitsan, or the Hite, from the outside. Wilderness, or the jungle of the Gog and Magogian apes, the owners of the CIA. And thus, because of being under it, they doom underwater sharks cannot hear the moonshining rock radio, of the eighth sky, or of the air sky, or the sama at dunya. In other one word, تكلمهم, or the proclamation, or the talk, clarification, bina, or tabayyanat. That's what I'm doing. Or the binaing, putting one in this bin and the other in another bin or luggage. This beaning means binesh or bina or tabayyanat, or separating or languaging. Nowadays we call it hate speech, the talking. Just shut up and go to hell. That is unconditional love that is suitable for the Dajjalic Dracula and his orangutans, the Shiva, Shova, Su, Sayyatli, severed and raped, oppressed victims who are loving their rapist. You wanna enjoy the rape, just shut up and enjoy the rape. That's basically. And so this benign hate speeching or beaning and putting one in this bin, the other in another bin, or this talk or tokallemum or claim before my hiram abifi this fall falamma kharra, when the dabbatul ars, or the creature of the earth, or the bear of the earth is eating the Solomon's staff, or mensaat, or the menacing postponder for and so in other words, proclamation and the bina, he been or talk before my hiram abifi this fall for underwater sharks, or the Syrianthine water snakes, or the creeping abominations which are cramped under or taht or tachet the plain sea level. I must say that the floating felucai surface level of the deep Dead Sea, or al-Bahr al-Masjur, or the northern buried wilderness winepress of Ras, is just another hovering isthmus that is stabilized, dammed, or tiered, or water moonlighted by the Isahi isthmus, or Barzakh, or the ceiling moon rock of the eighth sky. Also, in other words, we have two Barzakh. We have just as we have the inner courtyard and then we have the outer courtyard. In the similar way, we have the inner barzakh and then we have the outer barzakh. And so the outer barzakh is safeguarding the wide pastures in which the ships are grazing in the grassland, grazing in the grassland, and then the outside is where the werewolves are placed. And then once these ships are fattened enough, then they will be sacrificed, and then they get into the inner courtyard, inshallah, upon their martyrdom. The ship is for the slaughter, is to be slaughtered. And so from this Natafi net film plane, or the Habvaj, or the Haha, or Sejel, or the property plane, or the Sotehat of the soil salsali souls, or the sails, or the floods, or bitumen bulks, or the soil cements, or men nutfatan eza tamanna, or nutfatan men mani yomna, or the strings of the string theory, or the ishkol shakaling shapes and the fractal fillers are mined or minded or menued or weighted. And so from this or this what we know as a surface physical earth, or the Mosaic Mask Mansion, is alaqli clinch or alaqated, or the hang suspended, or the created, or من نشأة الأخرى. This is precisely talking about خلقا من بعد خلقا. That God is making creation after creation, or notion after notion, or nashat after nashat, or nation after nation, or in another word, it is a first the nataf is made, and then we have the alaqli clinch, and then we reach to physical manifestation in beta brainwave. Therefore, we can talk and distinguish between three earth times. The first one is the new earth, or the Eden, or the eternally inherited new earth, or Rasna al-Arz, as we read in 3974, Matthew 5:5, Surah 2105. These are all, or even the Isaiah 19:25. This is the new earth, or the Revelation 21:1 also. Or we call it the Al-Bayt al-Ma'amuri Imran, the third Asura, or the Umran, or the honeymoon house of the Al-Isra Sur Israel Brida, or the Hebrew Abar Uburd, or the crossed, the Machinot Preton Bridge, or Asirat Street, past crossed nation of God, the holy people of God that have crossed the bridge of the crossing and reached to there, and they have inherited that, and that is the only real time space, or the new earth. So this is the first earth that we are dealing with, and that it has already happened and occupied and inherited. You want to call it parallel reality, you name it, whatever you want to call it. That's the finalized future. And then we have the Anher Hosanahi husband, again, or the new heaven, or the cow Christ clock, or the seven sky, Sab or Samawat, underneath above the Beitul Ma'mur, or Raqal Manshur, above the Beitul Ma'mur. From holy whom we were ihbatud, or fallen, or kicked, or redeemed, or summa radadnahu asfal as-safilin, from where we were, again here this one is the Spentamanu, or the Sepantamanu, or the real, the Holy Spirit man menu, monies, or the maniyo yomnas, the sanctified and the anointed Holy Spirit is fallen, or ehbatud, or the redeemed, or the die asleep, or the shuffled down, or saffelin, down doomed into the second earth. And then the second earth, or the second time space continuum, is the Malakuti plane, or Adama, or Adam, or the Humana, or Hamona, or the Hamungag, or the Haman, or the desert. It is coming from, again, the Hamn, or the Zamana, or the Zamuna, or the Zamin, new ground, or the Yabeshi land that is stabilized, or the Yabeshli stabilized dry earth. That had two districtions of Mahish Asura, Assyria, and Assyriahli watered happy wheats, versus the dark Durga dragonically dark dry deserted district of the Div, Deva, Dive, devilish weeds are firmly iron dammed. Radman or qarar makinan, that we read in Surah 23 verse 13, or the radman, or firmly iron damned, or khatam Sulaiman, or khatamad, or hiramd, haramd, or harimd, or borderline, or fenced, or flat surface, earthly, sea leveled, sea level, because the fulkul mashhun, the floating sheep, or the surface of the ocean that is floating above the hell, or the deep ocean, or the baqwa, or baq, or baqwa, of the 64 hexagrams, that pot-loadedly tajri, or fulkal mavakhir, under or taht of the moonshine cascade mid-air, or the eighth sky. This is the eighth sky that we have, or the nearest heaven, or the series of the four Enosh, Nuos, nasal skies, or the old heaven. Again, the Ezekiel 47 verse 3, 4, 5, 6. The eighth sky is above that sea level, or Sama ad-Dunya is above it. And these four verses of Ezekiel 47 are exactly parallel to the verse 11, 12, 13, 14 of Genesis chapter 2. And that's how we have the cascade of the life, of the emanation of life, or the moonrise of the life into the darkness. This is basically the eighth sky that we get. And Fulkul Mavakhir al Tajri, above the deep water world, or the Dead Sea, or the Hindu heaven, or the Hades hole. And then from this old earth, or the sea level, we, the Natafi droplets, were one more time, khalaqa min ba'd khalqin, creation after creation, or khaluk, and we call it in Hebrew, compartmentalization after compartmentalization, added details after added details. Another time, or nash'at al-ukhra, one more time. Okay, we were ahbatut one more time, but again, this is not the physical fall, or we were died one more time. This is that we are basically died. We are in triple. We are three times died to reach into what we call it now, the 2020 year. This is so matter that now, or ahbatu one more time. But again, this is not a physical fall. This is a fall from beta brain, and from delta deep wave, delta brain waves, or the deep earth, into the surface earth, or the beta brain wave. So ma'ahbatu, or so maradadnad, down into, or ma'kusiyat, or akashi, or axically, or axed, axically, invertedly, alaqli clinched, or toppled down, or hanged cling down into the Egypt earth. We call it what? We call it the surface earth, the physical realm of Misr, Musawwar, Mizraim, or the Egypt field of the matsurs, or the surat, or the fashioned faces, or the mosaic masks. And so again, the eighth sky is and so we can say that this is another sky that we are falling from it, and that sky is the alaq lynch sky, or the dimension that connects the our natafs to our physical bodies. Here we can hear an amazing song about the eighth sky from queen of classical music of Iran, Lady Parisa. Again, the two-horn ram of Daniel 8:20 presents this way of Persian artifacts to you. And this is all legacy art. O Christ, your hair rays, your sha'airullah of Mash'ar al-Haram, or your moon shining hair rays, or your baqara'ing Mahisha Surahi emanation, or tajalli television broadcast of glory of Allah, is the maker of two things, because we cannot be indifferent. Once a bang happens, you either ignore it like the Buddhist baboons, or you enjoy and you lose yourself with that. And so you are the maker of two things, just as we read in book of John chapter 3 verse 16, 17, 18. Because Allah has given us and has gifted us the Christ, and so whoever rejects him is already condemned in his retarded or her retarded choice. And whoever gets it then and kiss the religion hand of Allah, he God, then they are blessed. But no one can be indifferent. You either ethos it or you reject it. You either eta'at it or you reject it. And so تو یک شمین from the Karestan or from the Karmaistan, from the billions, the myriads of the karmas and the works of Allah. This is only a glimpse of that. حدیث غمزت سحر مبین است. And so the Gamze or the charisma or the charisma of God or the coquetry glimpses of the beloved Allah that takes a love look at us and then dil mibare as us or takes away our hearts with him holy self is just what he is good at doing it. And these are like 4 lines. Let me go one by one, catch up to her. The mu'jiza host or the oh Allah, your tajalli television, your Jamal or your Christ Kamal or or your tajalli television, your rock radio is the mu'jiz and the miraculous bringer of husn or hosana or the form of the good. Or the mu'jiza husnast or your emanation into this jungle of the survival of the fittest, that the jungle of the law jungle is you make B2s and F-35s to become stronger, and then you make the usury based banking system of the Kabarati God in order to become more powerful and survive in that jungle of these Hindu orangutans. Your Jamal or your Christ Tajalli television is a mu'jiza, is a miraculous emanation of the love that brings tranquility of Sakina or the Shekinah to us, or brings the dwellance and maskan of your tajalli into our hearts, and then our hearts can peacefully calms down in this hellhole into which we are entrapped. حدیث غمزت سحر مبین است. And so when this Christ comes and Ruhul Amin comes from Protos to Eschatos, and then he opens himself and Fathan Mubinas, and then we see a glimpse of God and the coquetry of the beloved comes into us, then that is indeed the Sehr Mubin, or the benign or obvious conspicuous magic and miracle, but the white miracle that is coming, the white hole inside the black hole. And we call it Sultan Nasir or Sultan Mubin or Sehrul Mubin or Sahabul Markum, these chimpanzees call it. Oh, that, and as when Christ comes, and then they say, oh, the Sahab al Markum or the Rakam or the densely condensed Christ cloud of Allah has come again. And so let us go into our rat holes or into the naml, into the ant holes, in the cracks and crevices of the ground, so that the cloud doesn't rain and wash us off. آفرین باد که در عاشق کشی چهر آفرینم. Thousands of blessings and hymns must be sent to that lover killing eye, and that eye again, as we read here, that's the eye, and his eyes were as the flames of fire. This is the eye or the face or the pupil or the throne of Christ, or the jasper stone, from through whom the Allah is portal, periscope, porch, and we can see the Holy Allah, He our Creator, and so that's the basically this part is a lyric poet for the mesmerizing coquetries of the beloved's eye or tajalli television TV screen. چشم سوخ تو جان کی توان برد. How can I live? دو کمانم در کبین است که دائم با کمانم در کبین است. How can I live with that eye that's like a bow with the arrows of the gazing coquetry gazes is aiming at my heart, and that's irresistible emanation of the glory, kabut glory of the Creator. هشتمش هفتم زمین است. عجب علمیست علم هیئتش که چرخ هشتمش هفتم زمین است. یا دانی که بعد گو رفت و جام و فکر کردی کو خوندی حسابش با کرام الکاتبین است. Oh you baggety Obama, حسابت با کرام الکاتبین است. You faggot pharaoh fart, you filthy dajjal. And so let's come back here. عجب علمیست علم هیئتش که چرخ هشتمش هفتم زمین است. And so as we it is saying that such a Gnostic knowledge, it is the knowledge of the unseen and the assembly of the lovers of Allah, that in the chariot of God, in the Gilgal of God, that let's go to Daniel 7, in the Gilgal of God, که چرخ هشتمش هفتم زمین است, that the eighth wheel of the chariot of God is the seventh earth, or what we call it in this witness as the second earth. And so that's as we come here, and it says that, and the wheels are as burning fire. Okay, and these are the Gilgals, and the Gilgal or Qala in Gilgal Galamoses, we can find it here in let's go to 41 12, and then I can show to you the Charkh Hashtom is the Sama ad-Dunya, or the nearest heaven. And so we read that فَقَزَاهُنَّ سَبْءُ السَّمَاوَاتِ, and then the seven heavens are on top of the Sama ad-Dunya. Okay, and then and فَأَوْهَا فِي كُلِّ سَمَاءٍ أَمْرَهَا, and then وَزَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحٍ. And then so this is the Christ, or these are the lamp, or the real misbah, or the 12 lamps that once they are lumped into each other, they become the mega lamp, or the or the 12 constellations, the Buruj, or the Burgos in Greek. And then once the 12 Burgoses get together, then we have the singularity taking place, and the white hole comes and then sits on top of them in order to Qur'ans or cries. And so the Sama ad-Dunya is the eighth sky that is under these seven skies. And so in a way, we say that each one of these skies is a tabaq, or fi tabaqat, and I forgot the verse for it. Let's see if we can quickly find somewhere around here. Tabaq. That Allah has made it in different levels. The eighth sky are, and then we reach to the Saqf al-Marfu. Yes, لَتَرَكَبَنَّ تَبْقًا and tabqa, and you may surely experience. Oh no, this is not a state after the state. No, again, these are the rubbish translations of the Holy Quran. And so your rakaba, you don't experience your rakaba, or you have a merkaba UFO experience in the seven skies on a tabaq upon tabaq, or tabaqan upon tabaqan. And so tabqan and tabaq, we have the که چرخ هشتمش هفتم زمین است. These are the different tabaqats, or the ontological levels, and then we have the seven tabaqs, and then we reach to Sama ad-Dunya, or the final tabaq, or Saqf al-Marfu, and again the ceiling of the seven or the eighth heaven, or the eighth wheel of the chariot of God, that is the throne, where the throne of the Isa Masih is placed, and that is also what we get from the account of the report of the Isra and Miraj of the Prophet Muhammad, where he sees in the second sky, or the Sama ad-Dunya, the Christ and Yahya, John the Baptist.
فقضاهن سبع
سبع
سماوات
سماوات
في يومين وأوحى في كل سماء أمرها.
And so up to here the 7 sab'u samawat are placed, okay?
وزينا
لَنَّ
السماء
السَّمَاءِ
الدنيا
الدُّنْيَا
بمصابيح
بِمَصَابِيحًا
وحفظا.
وَحِفْظًا. And so here the Sama ad-Dunya is where placed, and Sama ad-Dunya is where the lamps are guarding or hefzing. Who is the guardian of the heaven or the owner of the hell that push down the hell into its hellish state and keeps safe the heaven in its heavenly attitude? That's the Hijran or Hijaban by Hijran Mahjura, and that is the Christ or Malik of the hell or the Melchizedek priest of the heavenly temple of Allah.
ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم.
And as you can see here, we are just doubling up two epithets of Allah. Every time we want to call Allah, we call him with two epithets. We don't say Iya, we say Iya Ashariya, because he says Iya or Hayyul Ghayyum or Azizul Alim or Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. It is always must be samaded with two and so that is the Sama ad-Dunya or the Charkh Hashtom, we call it in Ilm Hayat Ishq, or in the knowledge of the Sufi mystics and disciples of Christ. که چرخ هشتمش هفتم زمین است. یا تو پنداری که بدگو رفت و جام بود. Do you think that the backbiter, the devilish Dajjal, or this sodomite scumbag Caesarta, this Barack Babun Obama, can say something bad against God and then get away with it? Never mind it. The Kramul Katibin, or the writers of the decree, has written a very tormented punishment for this pervert president of the planet ape, the Babun Obama. And again, as we can read, every homosexual and Hindu and Taoist and Baha'i baboon that has been worshipping this 8th Bab of the hell, they will be all partaking in the punishment of this orangutan. And the Devi devil, or the or the Diablos, or the obelisk, or Iblis, that deceived them, or basically lied to them, or this Shakti Sakati Kali, or the Satan, was cast into the lake of fire, or Bahrul Masjur, lake of burning fire and sorrow, and the brimstone, or the Indra is cast into the real hellhole, allows the Rama comes out of its rat hole, and then the Rama is tossed into the real lake of fire, where the beast or the Obama or the Dajjal and the false prophet or this Dalai Lama, the 14th Dalai Lamia or Dalling Lamia or the Kedar Lamer, the last Kedar Lamer are and shall be tormented day after day, night after night, forever and ever. Amen. And that is precisely what you're saying, that like, do you think that these scientists scumbag can get away and they make a science to go to war with God and with Imam Mahdi and with Isa Masih? حسابش با کرام الکاتبین است، حسابش با کرام الکاتبین است. Now, even in his army, he had 70 billion orangutans that are working for him in his Chinese, Russian, and American military, as well as the Turkish and Saudi military. He is not gonna be handle the punishment of wrath of Allah. Now watch what we're gonna do to you, you filthy Nazi farts who are running the MI6 and the CIA and the Mossad and then the Russian intelligence services all together. Now that we have properly talked and distinguished and binad between these three earths or the three time space, the first S is the Eden or the eternal or the future light cone that has already happened. And then the second earth again is the Malakut or the Mamari plane, where our souls are placed. And then the third earth or the physical one in which we are, no earth or no heaven, the seven skies of the eternal Al-Bayt al-Ma'amur Amur Imrani life that is rested upon the Isahi rocky roof foundation or the ground, and then the old earth or the old heaven or the Malakuti earths or Arz, the Dead Sea level or Bahr al-Mashur, the Galilee garden surface that is under the old heaven or the eighth heaven or the mid-air or the downest heaven or Sama ad-Dunya with four Ruahi rank rows or the Erahi arrays or inverted Cascadedahi queues or solar sequence, and then the surface earth or the physical earth or the Egypt earth sky of the casted shadows where we are, or the al-alaq-lik-lich, the masks, or in the inverted al-an'ami bodies or the ma'akusiyat akashically upside down images. Let me now that we know this, we have made these three distinctions. Now let me make a Christian combo from Cry-Gorani version of the parable of the sower. And so we say لَتَرْكَبُنَّ طَبْقًا عَنْ طَبْقٍ 84:19. Your souls your souls are being right or carried on floor story or the layer level foundation bed or the flying rock roof barzakh ceiling cap of the old heaven or Sama ad-Dunya, where the full moon Messiah wal qamara iza tasaq, in just the verse before this verse, wal qamara iza tasaq has shafaqli or spectacularly or spectacularly eastbound. And then فَلْيَنْظَرَ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ. Then let Enosh Nuos nosing man or insan or Enosh Nuos man or the ground or the floor sperm semen. Look at his or her food. This is the ta'am that is coming from the fater or fatara. And that is the fitrat that is coming into the tinat of Adam, or the food, the heavenly food or ta'am that is coming into the tinat or the animalistic instincts and the nature, the bestial nature of Adama ground. Or in Nuos Enosh ground. Look at his food or inputs. Here we go. أَنَّا سَبَبْنَا الْمَاءَ سَبًّا. And so here we see that, and we mourning it, or the we burst or bloom or breeze out, or the sabaun, or inna sababna or sabba or sabaun, or bad sabah or the sabah wind, or the Sabians or Sabaoted out of the messianic misbah or misbah, the accumulation of all the 12 mini misbahs all together. Misbah or the sab, and the root word for all of this is the sab, which means bursting force or moon rising or outflowing or the gushing force. And so the morning or the burst or bloomed or breathed the waterfall, the word wine, or the moonshine, sunshine, such a torrential troop, or the Sabaoth, or the heavenly food, or the Tishteria Tir Armia, or the Tamburahi downpour tuna. And that is how we have the downpour of the melody, that is the food of the soul, and this miraculous melody, or the Sabaoian wind, or the water of Sabal, or the water that is coming from Misbah is called Al-Ma and Sabba, or the Sabbad, or the morning rained water from the Christ cloud, heavenly Christ cloud of the eighth sky. ثم شققنا الأرض شقا, and then we broke or opened out or fatan mobina, the clogged nose, the choked old earth, the jam and amassed mind whole. Such an awesome slice or pierce. This shaqqa is happening where you see the light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel is a dead end, or I am the dark room, and then in the dark room someone has baqarat, and so I say, oh, that's the target, that's the exit door. So inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And so such an awesome slice pierce, or the delve, dig, split, or shaqan, or the light at the end of the tunnel, or the run, rain, ravanahing, running, raining, that's for the rainahing, or like flowing. You can come out, I can come out of the stagnant and then carry my cross. And I, as a good Christian, I then say, oh, I love the Christ, but hey, buddy, you have fun. I'm good here. I'm not gonna come. I don't look for the trouble. I'm gonna pay the tax to the Antichrist and then be a good Christian or be a good Yahudi. No, no, no. You're the salt of the earth. You go, you seek the problem, you find bunch of the soldiers of the Antichrist, regardless of what their religion is. You look at their fruits, and the fruit is butchering the neighbors and the sheep for receiving money and feeding their belly and under the belly, and so you kill them. And then that's what the Sayyid Khorasani and Sayyid Yamani are going to start doing it from 2020 after my death. And so we follow the Shakkan or Fathan Mubinan or Fathan Mubinat. Okay, how you have Fathan Mubinat, and then you showed me how to find the problem and seek a problem, or cascade water falling down, downer, downerer, and downerer. And so the old downest heaven was formed so that Christ's cry Quran can be heard or seen, or in other words, summa shaqaqna al-arz shaqqan, or now look what we have done, what kind of shaqqa or the break or the split we have done in this sad, egotistical, empty, dark room. Suddenly Allah says, I placed the Tajalli television for you to watch God TV channel. And then now look at the miraculous downpour of the melodies and the tunes and the mercies and the breads that are falling from me for you. And then what we can say, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Downpoured into in and then فأنبتنا فيه حبا. And so, and the solar flare or the scatterer sowed, again we have it in Matthew 13, the parable of the sower, that I will actually I haven't added here, but we have it exactly in Holy Quran too, but I didn't have time to actually get them together, or the فَأَنْبَتْنَا فِيهِ حَبًّا, or the sepero, separi, spiritus, spread, spread, that's the meaning of the spiro, or the sword, or spreaded, spirod, or the spiritus, or we call in Persian separi, English, Persian, Latin, as well as the Greek within it. And so I gave the second spirit. This is the upgraded spirit. This is what makes us the Badal Bedelium. And if we are not careful, then this spirit will be snatched by the birds and will be taken away. Within it, the soul seeds, or the alchemizing, or the graceful grain, or the Christianizing kernels, or the Atman cores, Nafsul Mutma'inna, or Itminan, or the converting cores, or the confidence cores, or the Mahisha Surad Atmans, assured Atmans, or the Asura happy hearts. And so don't let that happiness to be taken. Or badaling beans, or the manna sperms, or the alchemizing egg elixirs, or the dense clusters, habban mutarakeman, that we have it, of the remembrance nuts, This solar soa is the downpouring of the potentials and abilities and capabilities and flares and talents from future time and space, or the higher corn, or the first earth, or the new earth and new heaven, or the eternal life, or the messianic moon book, or the Qiblahi epicenter pole of qawa and quwwat and taqwa, or kalimat taqwa, or quwwat, ذي قوة عند ذي قوة عند عرش مكين, or the قوة that is coming again. We have it as the strength, weight, hope. This is the hope that comes into the heart, into the disappointed heart. And from higher gardens floor foundation story, better rock tabaqat, or the story level, that is the foundation of the higher of the seven heavens, are sent to the lower floor story layer, or the tabaq, or the old earth. وَأَنْبًا وَقَسْبًا. Here is we are going with the parable of the sower, and so in the Asurahi land we have the Va'amban Vaqasban, or the green emerald, the Khazra or Khidr, or green, or Khatzir wood, solar sow, signal, or separi, or spirit, or spiritus. Spirit is coming from spirit. Spirit means something that is separi, something evanescent, something that is flowing, like the soul or the sail, something that is flowing, like the maniya yomna, or the sperm that is fluid and or like a ghost, or the breeze, or the spirit that is you inhale it out, or you inhale it in, or you exhale it out. And so that is called as a spirit. That wood, solar sow, signal, or plant potentials of what? Of ambalus, or anaban, amban, amb, that we have it as plaza, and ambalus means again like the vineyard, and so the garden of wine is sowing wine, and you are the branches, I am the vine. That's precisely where the eyeball grapes, or the logos ethosing antennas, and the dishes, or the goggles are receiving, or the word wine drinking throats, or the eye, ear, nose sharpening, cooling, washing. هذا مغتسل بارد و شراب, or salva, or the eye touching, salving of the 318. That like eye contact lens upgrades would enable the abductee, that is going to operate based on abductive logic, to catch the close encounters of the third Garai kind. The movie of that I'm using as a close encounters of the third kind. And so here, as we read in Mother Maria's case, we are receiving the Qariya, or Qara'a, or Qariyaing, or the eye sharpening, ear sharpening kind, because it is not dull anymore, it is not the stagnant. Suddenly you are pointed toward the Qibla, or Qutb, that is the Christ that is showing Allah to you from behind him, who is behind him, with future mothership, and that is the Ummul Kitab, that can Yusabbit or Yamho, or whatever is Allah is loving in it. and cutable و قزبن crop and cuttable crops قزبن قزبه or harvestable herbage or touchable green wheat. These harvestable and hand pickable, that's the meaning of the qazban, these grapes can be picked or they can be picked. Green wheats are to be gathered and collected, as we read in Matthew 13:30, for plantation in new earth. And so first we are planted in the second earth, and then we go back to the new earth or heaven. Or al-Baytul Ma'mur Amoris Imran, Baytul Imran Nahi life lavi higher con, or the level, or the higher tab, or the bedrock, or the flowing tablet story slab, raised solar slate. And once we are planted in the Baytul Ma'mur, then we can fly fruit in the 12 fruitings of the Revelation 22 verse 2. Then we can get to the Raqul Manshur, or into the inner sanctuary from the outer courtyard, from the trunk to the branched part of the tree of life, for fruiting or smoking or altar of incense and praying Allah, or fruiting or jaryaning, or becoming the budded staff of the Aaron, or budding or blooming in the higher garden, or the raised solar slate, or Saqful Marfu, or Lawhul Mahfuz, or Saqful Mahfuz. These are all the Saqaf, or the Law, or the Saqaf. These are all the names of the first earth, or Christ throne, or foundation of the heaven, or the ground floor of the heaven, or the bedrock of the heaven, or a slab of the seven skies, or the raised solar slate upon whom the seven heavens are mounted. و زیتونا و نخلا, and the olive oil tree of the heart burning, that is for the zaytunan tree, similar to the tandem relation between the paired couple in previous wine verse, where hand-picked collectible soul seeds of the old earth are as sure as Syrian ear-eye pod particles who have received the salvina, that is squeezed from future grape eyeballs, or the parable pupil pearl pebbles of the new earth, or the Isahi vineyard, or the charming Beit HaKerem, or the 20th Hetman, or the Zion Sinin to the Sinini Olive Mount, we can have an analogical inference for the paired couple in this wine verse. And so in the Gaelic Gardenic last night of the old earth, we can look at the palm tree trunk as the lower Asirat Esteriti Boaz horn of the tree of knowledge, or a trunk of the tree of knowledge of good, or the top Shajaratul Tayyibati, tree of good, or the fixed, firm, solid idea, da'at, proclamation, kalamatu sabat, qawla sabat, kalamatu tayyibat, or kala firm parakalad kaling Gilgal, that is extended. This time moonshine, this is the tree of knowledge, okay, and the tree of knowledge is extended, or the telescopically elongated as the palm tree trunk, or the appear dawn do not, or here we go, the twilight, or the tuwai, or tail in English, or tallad, wabelen fatallad, or the dude, or the dawned, or tailed, or emerged, from like teleportation, tele, these are all coming from the same, from the teleportic, telos, or ختامه مسکن, or the tail, or the tool, tool, telos, or from the end eschaton, or the tool, which is we also have it as the tail, or the lensen, or the lensen. That's where the telescope even comes. Of top olive oilahi trunk, and so when we say zaytunan wa nakhlan, zaytun is in the olive mount, and the nakh is also in the olive mount. These are the fruit types of the heavenly garden, but they have a replica in the eighth sky that is on top of the old garden, the last night garden, the second earth. And then from there we have the dews, or tal'uha, men nakhla men tal'uha, that we read in 1925, 699, and 5010, that the tree of knowledge is has fruits, and then the fruits of the tree of knowledge are, scripturally speaking, they are called as palms. Look at the palms that are mentioned again and again and again in third temple, the Ezekiel temple, or the heavenly temple, the Beitul Mamur. And then you can see that we have palm tree everywhere, and the palm tree is the tree of knowledge of good. And what's the fruit of the palm tree? Is the date. What is the color of date? Brownish, yellowish. And what is that? The cap of the cubensis mushroom. And so that's why we have it in 1925, 699, or 5010. That's what Mother Maria has been eating. These are not the dates that we eat. These are the cubensis caps, or the psilocybin caps that Mother Maria has been waiting. And what do we call them? We call them the tal'ah, or the tails of the palm tree, or the telescopic teloses, or the dews that are bumped out of the tree of knowledge of good. And then once you eat the good, then you know what's the evil. Of the top olive oilahi trunk, or the hot higher as sirat, ti yakin horn, of the next morning, or the future higher corn, or the next, or the new earth tria of Beitul Ma'amur Amur Imran. In other word, the palm tree trunks, yellow, brown, cubensis caps, or the gourd, qugati, wine, qugati agates, these yellow agates, or agiqs, of the book of Yonah, chapter Yunus, chapter 4, verse 6, or yaqtin, cottonish, bulge, balls, in different type of the parables, or the due dating dates, rotaban janiyan, that are hang and moonshine down, or قنوانا دانية. That's precisely what we have as the قنوانا دانية, hanging down or tailing down from the palm tree into the dark old earth. That like imagine the barzakh or the isthmus or the Christ throne, and from whom the moonshine palm tree or the Sabayan palm tree or the moonshine emanation is emanated, and then it gets down and the palm tree is rooted there, is rooted in the foundation of the higher heaven, and this is the eighth heaven, and we are on the, our souls are placed on the malakuti plane, and then it reaches down, and then at the lower part, the umbrella part of the palm tree, the dates of the palm tree are قنوانا دانية. They are telescopically tailed down, or reaches down to me and you in the Holy Eucharist, so we can have the bread of life, and then or eat the dates or the cubensis caps that are coming from the Christ ceiling into our malakuti level, into dark room, or alpha to omega fungal flower. In other words, let's get from here. The palm trunks, agates, bowls, dates that are moonshining down into the dark room are what? Are alpha to omega fungal flour, or the raw paste, or the fermented dough, or the curse that is cooked, or clash khlas ikhlas, or baked and cooked and turned out into the soft Bethlehemi Beitulahmi breads by hotly burning olive oil. And so that is why in this verse the olive and the dates of the palm tree are coupled, because the only there is this is the reason that they are coupled. The olive tree, or the Saddatul Muntaha, or the utmost high cedar tree, or the olive tree, is resembling the zanjabil, or the gingery tasnimi sunshine heat, direct heat, and the vicinity to the Ahura Mazdahi fire of Allah. And then once the olive tree يوقد من شجرة در مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو تمطر النار. Yuzi, and it is shining, it is boiling inside the furnace, and that's where the heat comes out, moon shines out into the night, and then cooks the raw paste of the dis, or the fungi that we are eating in the Holy Eucharist, not the one that ordinary people are eating, but the dervishes and the Sufis are eating, the gugaat, or the agates, or the gourd wine of Yonah 4:6, or the cottonish bulge balls, cotton balls, or the dates, the yellow dates that we are eating. They are all this raw energy that is cooked or baked with that olive oil meaning mentioned, or the zetani zaytun, or the zetani zaytun, and they are blessed, or they are clash ikhlas, they have received the meaning. Other than that, you are eating nothing, and that's how it is cooked or baked, or we call it the zetan zaytuni zel, ardor, fervor, fever of the live charcoal Christ, or the oven furnace lamp misbah, for his Allahi fire, or Ahura Mazdahi fire, and that's the fire source that bakes. نان دلی پخته شد نان دلی که از تف عشق تو بسوخت، شد زبر دست ابد آن کس که تو شد زیر و زبر. شد زبر دست ابد آن کس تو شد زیر و زبر. And so when you turn upside down the heart of someone and cooks it with your fire, then the raw paste and dough of that person turns into baked bread, Bethlehemi bread. That is broken, clash, or is neck broken, and has come out of this deadly state of fakhari, dough, fermenting, puffing, pitcher dough, and is turned into something meaningful. And it can be done by, again, the Christ Four Cornerstone. These Palm Day dates, or the day divine, or dog, coming from the same root word together. That's the root word of the divine, is not deva devi, devils. There are a bunch of orangutan chimpanzees call themselves linguists and come up with this retard etymological roots that are kind of bribed enough to reach to these funky conclusions. But these chimpanzees don't know that the day is the root word of the divine, and that's why that's where the Allahi fire is Shekinah dwelling. And that's why the day means the hot part, the hotly, divinely cooked heat flama breads, dates are what rain hang so down قنوان دانیة from the flying bakery, or the aerial bake shop, or the Christ palm tree of knowledge of good, that is at the extension of the knowledge of tree of life. Tree of life is the olive tree, or the axis of Olive Mount, and then we have the palm tree, that is the axis of the eighth sky, or the that comes down through the nasal of four nose nasal skies. Surah 80:30 و حدائق قلبا, and then the Islamo-Christian and Zoroastrian and Yahudahi and Sabaian, Sabian, Zahi gardens and orchards of 12 neighboring plots in Mahishasura Assyrian side of Malakuti old earth. that is Radama or Khitan or Hitan or Hitsand or Hitsand or securely Solomon key locked or Khatam Suleiman or Bina bind or Hiram Abifi Hiramd, the king of zeros. This is the zero land, the king of zero. This is not tired, the king of zeros, or the zarars, the king of the sex slaves, the victims of the hellfire, or the sorrow fire. Securely Solomon key locked upon against the Sodomite and yogic winepress wilderness of Magog fart and Rama rot and toxic thought Ganesha gases and viper weeds and Taoist desert tones and adult apes. And so because of this solar safety, amen, immunity, Solomon ki lakahdness, these 12 garden orchards or the 12 neighboring plots are luscious, dense, qulban, or dense, fruitful, or thick, thankful, or competing. But that's the where the thickness of the vegetation comes. Then they are competing in green and good humata, good hukhta, and good huvarshta, or fastabaqul khairat, in good intention, good heart power, good willpower, and then good word and good action. Although in night of old earth they are being killed, re-education camped, crackdown, internment camped, and prosecuted because of good Christ religion, handa of Allah. That, and you can see some of these links are taken off because this is the Press TV channel, the YouTube channel that is closed because it is talking about the Christ in the YouTube of the Antichrist. And so the YouTube of Antichrist doesn't like the truth so much. It is here, the YouTube is there to give you a sense of freedom in a place that you don't have a freedom, and you don't even have a democracy, let alone the rest of it. And so but still the website is working, but sooner or later that's gonna get closed too, especially after the attack to the Israel of the Israel headquarters of the Gog&Magog and global government of these orangutans of Barack Baboon Obama, the adult apes of Baboon Obama of the winepress wilderness. From 2016, I have been witnessing an measuring and water depths gauging among the 12 dark green gardens that are sending thick clouds toward Misbahi mothership, Al-Kitab, or the mother book, or the mother city, or the Al-Qura, or the mother Imam Ocean, Imam Mubin, or Ibn al-Maryam wa Ummat Yamma. That's where the Yam or the Imam or Imam is coming, or the deep ocean of a highly pressurized smoke spirit of Subhan Shabach Sepastus Sebomai Allah. That's the pressurized smoke spirit. وَفَاكِهَةً وَأَبَّا, and the beauty faithfully fruits and wonderful wits, or the fathers, and goodly dreaming green grass, فاكهة وأبا, that we have, and the fruits and the fathers, and the متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم. And so these are the heavenly provisions for you, your souls, your natafs, your manna, main persons, your main part, your manna, not your flesh shell, or your sperm, your or menu, mind, manna, the man, mind, menu, money, semen, and or the eshkol shakalik shape, that is mind or taken from old earth, from the old earth, or the second earth, or the malakuti sea level of the empty void, and provisions also for your physical, materialistic animal and bodies, animal, animated bodies. This is the realm of the animated shapes and patterns and colors. The clothing, cattles, this has nothing to do with the cattles. This means the body, the flesh, that your soul or my soul is riding it, and my decision can can get this hand to fist or open or do whatever. Mental mantles, or the emotional engines, or the pathos fadiyai horses, and then the good pathos is for getting to the fadiya or fadoi, inshallah, in Ramadan months of 2020. On third earth, the surface physical earth time, or the Egypti Misr of Matsur Surat fashioned faces, or Mozake mosaic mask animal horses, upon which we leashing, ethosing antennas, we the leashing ethoses or antennas are riding. Again, we are ethos antennaing the logat. We are either at antennaing and ethosing the meaning, the hot burning meaning that is coming from the fire source, or we are antennaing or ethosing or ethicing, or accepting, or inosh nuos nosing the farts of the fungal place, or the fakhar, proud puff of vanity, of empty void, that has not made the nature, but and is trying to conquest the nature by numbers and measurement, and is proud of being genetically decoding and reverse engineering the nature, and then calling itself genius. These are the adult orangutans with Nobel Prizes dangling from their necks, upon which we leashing ethos antennas are malekun, or rakubahum, or riding, merkabaing, our souls are riding, while we nataf, semen, souls, man, minds, mania, main man behind this flesh, are attuned with horsemen, false logos, Rigvedaic word, or horseman, the Christ logos, the Quranic word. And so this was part for the parable of sower, kind of equivalent. Although I forgot to again to bring it later on, I'm gonna bring it. But in the Matthew 13, again we have the parable of the sower. Read about the sowing, and then it is tossed at the corners, and then the birds of the Indra or the sharks of the deep sea come, or the birds of the Vayu void and the Makaras, they come and snatch the seeds away. And then we have that the seeds are placed on the rocky places where there is not enough deep mud, and so you don't have enough brain, and so enough mind mud or enough stamina, intellectual stamina, and so you don't grow enough roots in order to be able to withstand the mind, the sun that comes up, as well as the heat of the you call it root chakra. And so that's where the whirlwind, fire wind whirlwind of the fire can blaze and burn or dry or dehydrate the crop, and then you will not be, or I will not be able to produce fruits. And then the other one is that you are surrounded by rubbish friends, and because of wanting to be able to socialize and catch up with the dead in a world that is in a death culture that is declining, and you don't want to become isolated or you become pointed as a nerd or something, you go with the flow, and then so you have fun riding down the slope of the hellhole in the Dajjal infected culture of the end war and time. And then the other one is that the seed has enough soil, and so you are not talking about the bigoted brain of someone that might read Quran or something or touches the Bible but doesn't understand the parables enough because he doesn't have the good humata, and then Allah has taken the humata away, and then he or she is losing the intention, the good intention, or the good presumption, and so or the vasa'at, the vastness of the heart, to receive the law of loving Allah and loving the neighbors, and so then they will not produce good hukhta or good words or good haq, and good huwarshta or good deeds will not be produced. And so the people that are basically consider themselves to be Muslims, but they are nothing but bunch of the victims that because of lack of enough soil or the mind mud, the seed is not growing. It is in a rocky root, it is on a rocky land, and so they can be easily bribed by what do you call it, with the foxes, as we read in the hadith of Imam Sajjad, the fourth Imam of Shias, or the false clergy, like false sheikhs and imams and muftis and mullahs that bin Salman Sofiani is funding, as well as the Mageti Erdogan, that looks like a Muslim, but he is the Ottoman Empire type of Islam. He is the more on the massacring side of the Islam, not the real Islam. Again, that is the Islam that and so they funding bunch of foxes or the false clergy. Again, we don't have only queer clergy in the churches, we have false clergy that can produce terrorists that touch the book but never understand anything of the parables of the book, and so now the seed has fallen onto a rocky place and it doesn't have a root. You need to have enough intellectual stamina, not so much to become basically an adult genius, but enough to let the seed to grow. And so once the seed has grown, or the separi, or the spiritus, or the spirited so seed is received to me and you, then and you it goes inside, and you are not you don't have a break inside your brain, you are not a bigot, and it goes inside. Then you can with an open heart, or with a good humata, that's the most important thing, we call the humata or the hemmat, or with the good will power, or quvvat, or kiviti, or with the good hope, with the positive hope, I can produce fruits. And in a way, the humata is in the Kabbalistic tree, we can look at it as the qudrat, and that's why we say the Laylatul Qadr, or the night of the decree, or the night of the power, is where the will power, and the intention power, and the weight power, and the hope power comes. And if the hope power, or the taqwa to Allah, or taqwiyat of Allah, or not necessarily fearing Allah, that's one side. The other side is loving the beloved, and then you fear losing the beloved, or you fear making upsetting the beloved. And so once the taqwa and taqwiyat comes, or they call it you become God conscious, taqwa or kiviti in Hebrew comes, then you can, or I can, overcome two things: the mind, overthinking, and root chakra, or the heat of the sex chakra, and then the mind, by means of getting the toroidal field to tilt, and you shut down your electromagnetic field. They call it denying themselves, although in a guru might call it wasting an ego, but in different ways. And this is where the fire that is mentioned in this parable. So many people might ask that, what's the meaning of the fire in this parable? In the parable of the sower, it says that and when he sowed, some seeds fell by the way, and then the fowls, these are the sharks of the Indra, or the vasus, vaswal khannas, of the Indra, or the Satan, and they come and devour them, okay, for the from the on behalf of the adversary. And so then you are wasted. Some fell upon the stony place. This stony place is where you can produce plenty of ISIS, Daeshi Muslims that are not Muslim and have not reached to Zoroastrian فاستبقوا الخيرات, that good thought, good word, and good action all must be simultaneously present in someone in order to demonstrate an olive oilahi Holy Spirit inside that person. That is, his paste is cooked and baked and is turned into a soft Bethlehem lahami place. And so the Estoni place is where you see that you can get Ben Salman to spend some petrodollars to produce bunch of maggoty Muslims in Syria that go and attack to the government of President Bashar al-Assad, salam of Allah be upon him, and also attack to the Christians. And then everybody said that what's wrong with these Muslims, but they don't know that these are the Estoni places. These are the bigoted, brain dead baboons that touch the book of the God, but it hasn't went into them. Again, we read in part of the Revelation that the liars, the cowards, the frightened chimpanzees, they are not going to get into the heaven, something like that. Part of it is that we have to let go of that, and my people are being killed and destroyed because of lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge means that we are missing something, and that is that we are in a stony place, or إن القوم فرحون على ما every neighborhood is happy with what they have, and then they let go of the other neighbors. And so the Muslim never read the Bible, the Christian never touches the Holy Quran, they never read the Avesta, they never read the Mizmor Psalms or those kind of things. And so that is the stony place. And so it is not enough to say La ilaha illallah and then think that like we are not dealing with a formula. God is not a dead machine that you put something here, a process happens, and then here you get the ice cream, and then you go to heaven and have ice cream or something like that. It is not linear. It is not the mind. It is a heart. It is a living God. That's why we say Hayyul Qayyum. He's listening to me right now. He's just making the decisions according to the real time. He is the now, the very now present. And so again, as we read in the Ezekiel 33, someone might be for all of his or her life a homosexual. Couple of breaths before his last breath, he say repents and shahadat, and then reaches to surrenderness or taslim or Islam, and then dies as a surrendered or Muslim Christian, or someone that is salamd or taslim or neck broken under the Christ for cornerstone, and then is now purified to be presented to Allah, that look what kind of servant I've made for you. And Christ tells to Allah that. And so this is called stony places. And we have the same also about the Christians. We have plenty of bigoted Christians too, or bigoted Zoroastrians too. And so rock means that on stony places that the spirit doesn't go into a stony place. Sometimes we can say that the spirit or the separid or spiritus or the south seeds and souls and spirits of life gets to somewhere that it is stony, in a way that it doesn't have a mod, it doesn't get into. Sometimes we can say that for instance, fell by the way. What is fell by the way? Falling by the side is also showing that like he doesn't get it, or she doesn't get it, or it doesn't even get into the soil. Okay, and so this is where someone might be considered as someone that is considers himself or herself to be a PhD, a super smart person that even denies, like right off the bat, it doesn't get into their minds to even think about it, or into their hearts, to even give good intention to it. But sometimes you reach to a stony place, a rocky place, and so once it reaches to a rocky place, then you can. It's the best place for producing terrorists, or the false Christians, or the false Muslims, or someone that doesn't have a deep root, that is basically has enough nutrition, that is again once it is not stony, then it gets closer to the heart, and heart is where the water can get to the root, so that mind or the soil can produce, or the mud can produce good functions. And so where they had not much earth. What is earth or jaw? It is the brain capacity or intelligence. A certain amount of, in other words, there are plenty of the garbage out there, that you can easily get a sheikh and mullah and mufti and come to you, and then they make pro Erdogan, or pro bin Salman, Daesh terrorist, ISIS terrorist, that is in fact made by the money of Mr. Dajjal, Barack Hussein Obama. Okay, and so you need to have a certain amount of the intellectual capacity, or ears, or jaw and room, or to see that this one is loading you with crap, and a Christian is not considered as kafir in Quranic terminology, that you can go to a church and desecrate their place. Kafir is someone that does not believe in Allah. If someone kisses the hand of Allah, or his Christ hand, it is still Allah. Although they have a problem, they are making idols sometimes from it, that's not our business. But they are still the neighbor, they are not the enemy. And so you can easily mismatch the ashadda al kuffar and rohama bainahum, loving your neighbors, and with El Shaddai might being tough against your enemies, that are the rapers and killers of your neighbors. That to be a good neighbor doesn't mean to let your neighbor to bring gay marriage to your church. To be a good neighbor means to reprove the fruitless works of the darkness. Don't let that garbage comes in, or in other words, safeguard your neighborhood. Have a nice neighborhood watch, and make sure that the junk and the Jezebelian junk and porno doesn't get into your neighborhood. All of those things. Part of it is the false terrorism, or part of it is again not the false aggression, when the aggression is not necessary, and when the El Shaddai might and war is necessary against the Israel, the Israel of the Hindus, or the Israel of the Taoists, or the Israel of the Baha'i baboons, then you see that they are talking about the love aspect of the anytime that you need to have a little bit of show of force, they turn to that side. Rohamai bainahum. And so again, all of the Freemasonry is checkerboarding this, so that only the one that has enough room, much earth, and it is not the stony break, doesn't have a break in his or her bigoted brain, understand that what's going on, and how Muhammad is the paraclete of the John, and all of those things that I have explained throughout the witness. And forced with and they sprung up, and forced with they sprung up because they had no deepness of earth. And so once the earth gets deep enough, or once the mind gets deep enough, then we realize that how much we are hollow, and then it reaches to the heart, or that my heart is your heart is the only heart, and the only heart is the Christ, or the Ruhul Jahan. Dush koja bude I Ruh Jahan, or the spirit of the world, or the Ruhul Amin, Ruha Amen. And Ruha Amen is the one that goes around Allah, and then ta'amins or amns or or secures himself by getting to Allah, getting heat, and then coming and then diffusing it among us. Christ is doing that. It's a super heavy job, but he's doing that for all of us. And so deepness of the earth is where we realize that the earth needs shaqaqa shaqqan, or something like that, that we read, that the earth needs summa shaqaqna al-arz shaqqan, and that the earth must have an opening, fatul mubin opening, or a split upon it, so that the rain can comes in, or it must have a ceiling or a roof or a cap for the earth or this eighth sky, so that the crop can work in it. Okay, and so let's get here. And so now this is what I wanted to explain. And what is the sun? And when the sun was up, they were scorched, because they didn't have enough a stony place. And so the sun comes up, you have a bigoted brain, and then you become defeated by your mind, and your mind is nothing but hum, humming, that we'll just read, and that is we read here, jahiliyating. This is the jahiliyat that we read. It's I understood. Okay, so this Christian is a kafir because he's not mentioned in with this name of Christ in my Quran. So let me put a bullet in their brain, or chop them, or the very churches that President Bashar al-Assad, salam of Allah be upon him, was safeguarding, they attack, and then they say that these are the houses of the kafirs. Okay, something like that. Or the Barak Erdogani Turkish Ottoman Empire style of the Islam, not all the Turkish, although okay, not the Sufi brothers and sisters, not that amazing Tariq crossers. And so the sun, part of it is that. The other part is what? How many sex slaves have made these Daesh and ISIS terrorists? the Muslims that are made, or even the Christians that are made, the pedophile priests like this Pope Francis, or the gay priests, the pervert priests that are coming. The sun was up and then they were scorched. Why? They didn't have enough brain. They didn't have enough deepness of the heart, of the earth, to reach to heart, to get it where it is, so that by the taqwa or by the taqwiyat they can overcome the sun and get power, get water of life. And so taqwa or taqwiyat or kiviti, they have failed to receive it, and so in other words, they have lost to receive, let's go, quwa. What is the quwa? Verse 10 is talks about the quwa, that they failed to receive quwwat, quwwat, or the willpower. This is the sustenance, but it is not sustenance, it's the willpower of the heart, okay, or the hope, or the weight power, okay. And so because of the sun or the heat of the root chakra, scarlet root chakra, they become pervert priests or pedophile priests, or homosexual priests, or as my brother calls it, degenerate priests. We have it as we read before, 48, I think. Maybe 26 here. And so the hamat or ham, this means hammam, or the sun bath, or the where is it, and then so the taqwa or taqwiyat, reinforcement, the strengthening. This is meaning of the taqwiyat, the reinforcement. And this, how do you reinforce and restrain? By knowing that according to the law you should not murder, and so you should not kill a Muslim and Christian, or a Zoroastrian. And if you do it, then you're cooked in sorrow. And so they don't have a strength or the enough gentleness of the heart to understand, or those kind of things. And so the sun is again the two things, the mind and the root chakra. And so the only thing that can save us in front of it is taqwa or quwwat or taqwiyat, which we call it good humata, or taqwiyat is giving us good humata or hemmat khub. And then that's why we read in 1681 that we need the garment of faith, or libas or taqwa, or the baptismal clothing to taqiyakum, protect us from the heat, and then to protect us from the violence of the mind. And so this heat of the root chakra, and then the violence of the brain that is only thinking about making UN army of one world government of God of United States and China and Russian governments. These Har and Bas together they create what we call it. Now I want to get to yes to the parable of the sower, the Quranic version of it, because I didn't have time to write about it, but it is extremely important to talk about that part, and so that's why I wanted to orally cover that part. And so this is as for the sun, okay? And so I'm going to get back to this sun because the sun must be and so because the sun comes up and they don't have enough roots, they wither away. You do something wrong, and in my case, for instance, again, as I said, the garden that I was making, the witness fall down because I denied the vision that I was shown to me about the Jezebel, and I said that okay, that vision was bug, and because of that thinking right there, I lost the taqwa or taqwiyat or the hope or the weight or the power or the strength. And so because I lost that taqwa and taqwiyat and umid and hope or the strength, then I was still producing, but I was producing falseness, and so my garden fell in and burned into the ashes. And that is precisely what this sun is resembling, that my mind took over, and then my mind basically said that all right, that vision was wrong, I had to become a gay. Why I became, my wall was angaza yuridu and angaza, my was curved and queer. I went to the Jezebel porno church or the theater, and then I received the plagues of the Babel. That's why God said that come out of it. And so all the signs are pointing that basically she is the enemy of mine and all of these things. And so I was wrong, and so I denied that crucial foundational vision that was given to me from the heart of all of us, and that is the Christ, or basically was gifted by Allah. And so once I did that, then all of my conclusions were turned into arid ash, burned. And later on I realized through the istikharas that I've already explained that I was wrong and she was the true vision. And that is when I realized that in my on the baptismal day of mine on June 21st 2015, about months before receiving the revelation and wahy, in the middle of the Gog&Magog with my brother, I was shown on the very day of my baptismal. After the baptismal, I came home by the hand of Emilia, and then I came home, and then on 10 grams of mushroom, I was shown I was brought into the most horrific journey, or the tabernacling, or the of mine, or you want to call it mushroom trip, you can name it that. And so in that I was shown that what is about to happen, and that was a merciful forewarning from Allah that is shown to me that the angels of hell are separating me from her, and she is being taken away into the great torment that she is already promised in Revelation 2 verse 20 to 23, that is promised the great torment to the porno teacher and the kundalini and guru that is also a singer of the kirtans of the Satan, Indra, and then comes into the Church of God and then brings her perversion there. And so that was a gift, and I missed that gift, and so that was a warning. And so I could work with that morning and produce a fruit that can save her and myself, because we were both screaming, we were stretching hand toward each other. We are going to, actually, that is what is about to happen. We will be screaming, stretching hand toward each other, and then she was being taken away and I was being taken away. That is the case. And so that was mercifully shown to. And what is the best thing for a criminal? To show them what's gonna be the sentence for the crime that he or she is committing, so that before getting to that future and finalized deeds are and the deeds are finalized, we can reach to the repentance. That is the ultimate mercy that was gifted to me on the day of baptismal, my baptismal. But I ignored it. And so I kept going to the transgressive church that is not again a church, but a gay club. And then my wall was angazza and knocked down, and that exposure to the homosexual filth basically had my wall knocked down, or the curved and queered, and then it was straightened. Another mercy that was Khidr did according to the order of Allah to him. And so I was straightened by means of the resistance of my brother Ali. And so sun scorching and burning the crop and withering the crop and the fruitfulness is basically my mind, or mind sex power. And the one that can overcome this sun and this heat of the bass of the mind, the violence of the mind that destroys the visions and the shivas, the visions and the gentleness, and then the sex root, the one that can overcome it, and no one can do it unless by getting taqwa or taqwiyat, or the strength and the hope and the help and the weight power that is coming from the Christ. And so once that happens, then we can survive. And the other stage is that when the seed or the spirit is fallen among the thorns, again, once you are among the thorns, and I was in, for instance, in that theater among the gays and homosexuals that touch the Bible, but they are not a Christian, okay? They are not surrendered, they are not Muslim, they are not baptized, they are just making fun of themselves and their religion, and then they are just not even the lukewarms. And so just like ISIS and Daesh, again, that's and so they fall among the thorns. And once you fall among the thorns and sprung up, and you will be choked, I will be choked. That's why we say tabarra in ziyarat Ashura, in the prayer after Ashura. We ask Allah to make us bari from the retards, or from the thorns, and or from the reptiles. I forgot which one of the verses of Al Quran says that be fearful of these maggots, because they are full of sicknesses and diseases. Although they have took it away, the sodomy and homosexuality, as a mental condition, but they are the slaves of the reprobate mind. And so don't partake in the fruitful works of the darkness, rather reprove them, as we read in Ephesians 5:11, or do amr ma'ruf and nahi az munkar, nahi anil munkar. And so so get away from the thorns. And so if you can get away from the thorns, then and the other fell into a good ground, then you have enough brain, and then you have that is deep enough, solely enough to reach to the heart. And so once it reaches to the heart, not my heart, not your heart, the only heart, a heart of every one of us, the heart that loves the justice, the beauty, the holiness, the sacredness, the sanctity. Even the heart of a Hindu or Baha'i, although they've never reached to that heart level, or the fu'ad or the nataf is not activated, it is in the wilderness. But on the day of judgment, again, as I said, we all of us, we are going to have see the day of the Christ, upon which Allah is showing saying salam to us, and then we will judge ourselves easily. And so if once it's a good ground that gets to that heart, or taqwiyat, and nourishments or the sustenance of the earth is coming from the Fatha Mubina into it, then, and it is not surrounded with rubbish maggots, then it can brought fruit. And so this parable is that is and then the explanations of it, about like I don't know, 17 verses or something, are more actually, when we have the parable explained and all of those things, here that it says that the kingdom of heaven, and understand it not. This understanding, yes. Why anyone hears the word of the kingdom and understand it not. This is the understanding of the parables that cannot be delayed. For instance, one of the parables is the son. That God doesn't have a son. Son has a chish or huos, or relative, or a spirit. Doesn't have a son. There is no penetration, there is no nothing. If you don't understand the parable, then you stick to that, then you become a bigoted. As soon as you see a Muslim and then you see that they are denouncing that, reproving that retard interpretation of son, the patriarchal monarchical relationship, then you say that, well, this is not my religion. But in fact, that was just a parable that you have taken and made it to something super sacred and immaculate fact, but you forgot that that's a parable. That's meaning of the word of the kingdom, and understand it not. Then comes the wicked one and catches away that was sown, and so the wicked one comes and catches away, and then make a that was sown in his heart. And so here again we see that it is easily the one that has all the money and of the power of can easily get the Ben Salman to produce for Hillary Clinton and for Barack Obama her god, her Dajjal god, or her Hanuman god, a bunch of dead brain Muslims that can basically that their a spirit of mercy or the spirit of fierce fight against the enemy of your neighbor and showing mercy to your neighbor is taken away from them. And so they are furious against their neighbors, and they are retardfully open and like mercenaries, slaves of their enemy, the enemies of themselves. And so that's how and this is he which receives the seed by the way, and again this is the seed that is by the way, like it doesn't get into their basically, here it is called heart, but it is in fact into their intellect. But he that receiveth the seed into the stony place, the same is that he that hears the word and anon with joy and receives it, yet has he not root in himself, but dureth for a while. For when the tribulation and the persecution arises because of the word, he is offended. He is also that receives the seed among the thorns. And so this tribulation is, as I said, the heat that we are receiving. This tribulation is the har and or the sexual sins, as well as the bas, or the violence of the mind, and that is the tribulation. And then as for the persecution, once the persecution comes, that is the fear. And for the fear, the bas is the power that someone, a powerless creature, has for survival, and that's the survival against the fear. And so persecution relates to the fear, and the fear relates to the mind, and the mind tries to survive as animalistic part of our body. And the other one is the like having 5,000 sexless slaves from Iraq and Syria being sent into Saudi Arabia as these or even raping people in Syria and Saudi Arabia by the Daesh and ISIS Muslim versions of Dajjal. And so again, the persecution is there, and the tribulation also again is related to that fact that mind denies, mind is linear, mind wants violence, and the violence is in the linearity of the thinking. It is not curved, it is not, doesn't have the taqwa and taqwiyat. And so tribulation and the persecution that is related to a rocky heart or a stony place is in fact the one that doesn't understand it and does not get it in different degrees, whether by the side way, like you don't even give it a chance, but you give it a chance, but later on you become a killing machine, and thou shalt not murder, or you become pimp, or and so that is how you lose the chance. And again, the other one is the thorn, but again, the important one is that you don't have the enough understanding of it, and then because of that, of the word or the parables, and because of that, the tribulations and the persecution will ruin the fruitfulness. And so that is what we have it in this parable, and says that would one of you like, and so all of that lengthy parable, let's say how much gets up to here, about 23 verses that we have it, almost, yes, 23 verses are summarized in 3 verses of Holy Quran, to just show the conciseness and the extreme amount of summarized style of Holy Quran that is talking about the same. Would one of you like to have a garden of palm trees like someone that is eating the mushrooms and grapevines, and again receiving the wine and becoming a charmed, daydreaming. تجري من تحتها الأنهار, that underneath it flows and rivers, and these are the river that gets to our heart and nourishes our heart. لها فيها من كل ثمرات, inside is from every kind of fruit, you name it, all sort of the fruits are there. The pomegranate martyrdom, the olive oily, heart-burning, the nakhil dates, the date palms, and then the cubensis, caps of them, or the grapevines, or the drinking, eye touching, eye grape touching, Shekinah, shine and glory of Allah, that are tajring and flowing into. But he is afflicted with old age and has weak offspring. Okay, here. و اصابه الكبر وله ذریة ضعفا. And so weak offspring. This is not weak offspring. This is a weak soul, weak zurriya. This is not children. The real meaning of the zurriya in Holy Quran, most of the places, has nothing to do with zurriya. Zurriya means zarre, or back particle, or zarre. And zurriya, zu'afa zurriya means the weak soul. And so وَأَصَابَهُ الْكِبَرُ, and then is afflicted with the old age, or a stony place. This is the kibar, and so the kibar is not old age. This is kibar, or the proud, or either he has a proud, he is proud, or she is the proud person, or they have a weak soul. And so the proud one has a powerful bas, or the mind power, and so this kibar is like someone that is, the seeds are thrown at the sidewalk, and so he considers himself to be a scientist or someone, and that has bunch of equations to affiliate and operators to work with them, and then so right off the bat dismisses. That's the kibar, or the greatness, or the haughtiness. And then the zurriyatun za'af, the weakness of the, not the zurriya, but the weakness of the child inside, let's call it that way, or the weakness of the soul, is referring to sometimes the inclination toward animalistic root chakra. And so once you to put this kibar and zurriyat za'afa together, it becomes فَأَصَابَهُ أَعْصَارٌ, whirlwind, فِيهَا نَارٌ, a fire, فَاحْتَرَقَتْ, it is burned right there. And so the heat, and then the violence, because the mind is ultra masculine and just only produces thinking thorns and pricks, perceptional pricks, and so it rips apart the gentleness of the spirit, the feminine spirit that is tajriing and flowing from the Christ Kawthar spring, the Kawthar ethereal spring, to the heart. And so what I do is that I kill myself, or I do what? I rape myself up, or I Shiva severed myself, or I destroy my own self. Again, and that is precisely what we read in 479. And so that is how the Fa'asaba and Sayyad, or the Shiva, comes. If the Shiva comes to you, Shiva is from your own ego, or the
سيئة
The say comes to Hebrew becomes shov, shova'at.
سيئة
And so shova is from yourself. And if the shova befalls upon you, وَمَا أَصَابَتَكَ مِنْ سَيِّئَةٍ فَمِنْهَا مِنْ نَفْسِكَ. And so once that sayyat comes, that's the kibar or the takabbur, not the old age. This is a retard translation. And then the chill, and then the zurriyat zu'afa, or the weakness of the or the sexual tendencies or the instincts, the animal instincts, under the belly instincts, overcome your taqwa or qawwat and taqwiyat, then you fall into a whirlwind fiha narun, fa'asabaha a'asarun fiha narun. And this whirlwind of fire that is mentioned here, this is very important. This whirlwind containing fire and that burns the crop of a field is what we have it here as the sun that arises, or the tribulations and the persecutions that happen. Okay, tribulation and the persecution that happen. One of the tribulation may be what? The sexual temptations, and then the persecution is the kibr, or the mind, the haughtiness, or the mindfulness. And so together they produce what? The toroidal field of the Ouroboros, mindful, high round permanency orangutans, the hippies, the open mindful ones that are biting their genitalias. And that is called sun or heat. Okay, this is not the sun, this is the sun that does what? That befalls the evil and brings the evil. And so that sun brings فَأَصَابَهَا أَعْصَارٌ فِيهِ نَارٌ فَاحْتَرَقَتْ, a whirlwind containing fire. And that is how the crops are burned. And thus Allah makes you clear verses like this that you give thought. Basically, in one verse, the entire parable of the sower, 23 verses of Matthew 13, in one verse, they're all packed here, right there. That's the amount of the Quran. Again, Holy Quran is like an index book. You want to read the chapter, you must read the Holy Bible. And as for the Holy Bible, it is so much in details that you might get missed in the son father things, okay, parables, and then you lose the point. And then here is the index that everything is summarized. The headlines are all picked up and titled for you and me, so that we can make sure that we don't get too funky interpretations or understandings. Let's hear this amazing ayah.
أيود أحدكم أن تكون له جنة من نخيل وأعناب تجري من تحتها الأنهار له فيها من كل الثمرات وأصابه الكبر وله ذرية ضعفاء فأصابها إعصار فيه نار فاحترقت كذلك يبين الله لكم الآيات لعلكم تتفكرون.
And so here we can see that أَعْصَارٌ فِيهَا نَارٍ, or the whirlwind of fire, is nothing but a self-inflicted. Whatever befalls upon you is the evil that is coming from you. It is just a self-infliction. What is the kibar? The kibar is the my brain is a bigot. Muhammad is not the paraclete. I don't need the Holy Quran. I am good with this. Whatever rubbish is passed to me, I just go and give it to the next generation. I'm not thirsty for the legacy, love letters of the beloved. Or these guys are calling that Christ is not the Son of God, so they're wrong because of but they don't, you don't go to the details, you don't go into those parts. And so ignorance, again, the Hosea 6:4, if let's take a quick look at it, because that is precisely related to the topic of us, to our topic. And so my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because they rejected knowledge. Why the people are rejecting the knowledge? Because of
الكبر.
Kibr means self-haughtiness, or seeing yourself as something great, narcissistically looking at yourself as something puffed up. But again, that is fakhar, that is fakh, or nothing but fermented proud. And so that's where the rejection comes. And so right there, because you rejected the law and then the knowledge, I also reject thee. And so that's where we say fear God. Why? Because once God rejects us, then if God rejects us, and then Hosanat or Hasanat doesn't reach to us, because we don't have a hasanat from ourselves. We are nothing but monsters, we are nothing but animals, governed by two things, sex, and ba'as, the survival. And so survival, again, part of this kabura is survival, because it is extremely dangerous to accept that Islam and Muhammad is that paraclete that Christ said, because if that is the case, then there are a lot of changes that might come into your paradigm. And paradigm shift is something that everybody is scared from it. And so as soon as that scaredness comes from, what is that scaredness? That is, so this, and again, because of that, we are going to be destroyed. As soon as that scaredness comes, then we go into what? We go into tribulation and persecution. That scaredness is a persecution, because your paradigm will be persecuted. Because as soon as you feel danger for the rubbish fairy tales that you are, the bubble of the illusion and delusions to which you are daydreaming, then as soon as that pops, then you react in a negative way. And so you don't want that persecution to happen. And also the tribulation, again, that's where your ideology might be challenged. That's for the kabarat. Also the tribulation can be sexual temptation, and so that is the kabara. And so zurriyat zu'afa, and so this is the weak souls, the weak. It is not children, it is the soul. The means the zarre means a little thing, and then the alam zur is the alam of zarre, and then, so the little thing of you, or the soul seed of you, is a wheat seed. and so the weak seed that has kabura, and this one, the weakness, might go into sexual temptation, or this one, and so together they produce fire. Asaro fiha fire, the whirlwind of the fire. You go from the mind to sexual perversion, from sexual perversion to survival, from survival and then the rejection of the law and the promise of God and the knowledge. You go into more har and heat and violence, and then you see the good neighbors that are supposed to get together, and together they punch the enemy in his mouth, or the enemy in his mouth. Who is the enemy? The Shiva Shova, or evil instincts, the monster severing, Shovaing monster in us. You see the two neighbors are not shaking hand, and so that's where the affliction and the evil befalls upon us, and then we are entrapped in the realm of the Diavus, Daius, Divus, Devilus, Div, Deva Devis, in which we are now. And so again, that's basically one verse, all of the parable. These two also go after, and then we read that Ya ayyuha allazina anfaqu min tayyibat. And this from here, it is in addition that now that you are fruitful, spend from the good things that you have received. If you receive that's for the nafs zakiyah, that we must clarify, or the rain, and that's I must give you the olive oil that I have drained. Whatever you have, and again I'm coming from the earth, I'm coming from the earth, and inside the earth, as we look, there is the king. Who is the king of the earth? The king of the earth is al-arz shaqqan, and the shaqqan in the earth is the tabaqan, above the earth, or the ceiling above the earth, that makes the room for earth, and from whom wal-qamara is a tasaqqa, or from that full moon. The full moon is shafaq, or a spectacular or water is coming, and that water is the water of the Sabaoth, Sabban, Sabian spirit, or the Sabah wind, or the breeze of God. And so once you receive the breeze of God, then you must spend from it and give it to everybody. And my problem part of it is, and don't aim toward the defective thereof, spending from it. That you wouldn't and don't aim toward the defective therefrom, spending from that while you would not take it yourself. And so like when you get it and you understand it, then with a good hukhta, and with a good huwarshta, with a good deed and with a good word, pass it on. And it shouldn't be in a way that you don't want to even take it. If someone with the same attitude and accent says it to you, are you going to take it? And that's the thing for me, that not insulting, not being violent. Again, if I'm saying that the apes of the Vanara jungle, or the Hindus are the apes of the Vanara jungle, this means something that their own scripture is saying, or the Qararatan Khas saying, even this scripture is saying. All the scriptures are saying that they are nothing but apes, or the Nobel Prize winners are nothing but the orangutans. And even themselves, the Darwinists, that they acknowledge it, okay? So they shouldn't be get offended. Or going to the earth, what goes inside the earth, unless the cockroach, or the Talmais, or the pharaoh dwellers. What is the pharaoh dwellers? Ants, the cockroaches, the tarantulas. Okay, these are all go to the parables. If we come out of that parable, then it might look like an insult or a hate speech. But it says that don't make it khabis, don't make it too bad. Don't make it to the way that you don't want to get it, because do to the others as you want them to do to you. And this is persa that the tanfaquna, while you wouldn't take it except that with closed eye, that you must do iqmaz, that like if someone tells that to me, then I'm going to take it, but I'm going to put the hard sides and those tough corners away. وَعَمَلُ أَنَّ اللَّهُ مَعَ اللَّهِ غَنِيٌّ الْحَمِيدٌ, and Allah is the praiseworthy, the hamd, the him, the
Hamid.
and Allah is sufficient. Allah doesn't need us. It is us that we need Him, because Hasanat and Husna, He is has the abundance of the Husna and Hosanna, and that's why Christ is full of that. And as for me, there is no good in me. I'm nothing but an animal. But the talk that is given to me, that's something sacred, for a divine agency that is not existing in the realm of animals, because they don't understand the concept of Allah in a way that we are supposed to do. Or holy Allah, holiness. And so that's basically about the fruit. But all the parable of the sower is in this one single verse. This one is about spending it and sharing it. Feed my sheep, feed my sheep. If I feed you, feed my sheep. And so book of John chapter 21, that's the feeding of the sheep. الشيطان يعدكم الفقر. Yes, and then the Indra, the Satan, the Shiva Shova Su gets you into poverty, and poverty is what destroys my people. And the وَيَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ, into immorality, insulting, violence, ba'asakum, or the fahsha, or the sex, ya'murukum bil fahsha. And again, it is poverty comes from the kabr, or the rocky stage that doesn't get the root, and also zurriyat zu'afa, or the za'if zurriya, or the seed of za'if. And thus فَأَصَابَتْكُمْ, so the fire burns, the whirlwind of the fire burns your or my fruitfulness. وَاللَّهُ يَعِدُّكُمْ مَغْفِرَةً, but Allah promises you cover off. Allah says that Ahura Mazda, He mercy, and fire gives you maghfirat. He covers off, He cleans off, He bakes, He cooks you, He makes you strengthen, He gives you olive oil, He heartburn, so that you then come out of the wicked and weak coldness. You're lukewarm, He makes you hot warm. Now it's time for you to go to war to Israel of the Baha'i baboons, of the Buddha Abaddon beast. Or you have the Kabar, Allah softens you. You have the thick rock, or the stony ground, Allah softens and makes it permeable. Wallahu ya'dukum maghfiratan minhu wa fazlan, Allah gives you bounty. Wallahu Yeshua, Wallahu wasi'un, or vastens. Allah is the vast, all vast, and Allah is Alim. Again, boom boom, or Qadiyyun Hamid. Allah is all sufficient, praiseworthy. Wasi, all knowing. Every time Allah is praised with boom boom, with double smokes. In the altar of incense, no one sends single puff, single smoke. We always sing same two, this and that. Or the repetition of the word hayya, hayya, iyash, iya, for the reason they say ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and themselves indeed acknowledge again ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, or Ghaniyun, sufficient and praiseworthy, Hamid, or all encompassing and all knowing. And again, these are the complementary parts, but the real part is Surah 2 verse 266, entire parable of Matthew 13, parable of the sower, in 2 lines, in English in 2 lines, in Arabic almost in 2 lines too. That's the amount of the conciseness of the Holy Quran. And so then getting bin Salman to bribe bunch of shaitanic sheikhs to come and make Syrian revolt against the Bashar al-Assad president, Bashar al-Assad in Syria, is not that hard, because the book is super concise, and you need a lot of understanding and knowledge in order to make sure that you don't go into the violence against your neighbor. Thou shalt not kill, the 10 commandments, or the 2 laws all summarized. And at the same time, you become ashadda alal mu'minin and rohama ba kuffar, ala kuffar, and that is precisely the upside down of what is me and you are supposed to do. We are not supposed to show mercy to the oppressors of our neighbors, and we are not supposed to show aggression toward our enemy, our neighbors. And from here I get to the figure 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the BDCTN model. As for the figure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which are showing the anchoring and the floating dynamics of the BDCTN model arc of consciousness, let me say that the figure 1 is showing the unaltered, unpsychedelized, and un-LSD marked Fitnat al-Masih ad-Dajjal, and unperturbed and anchored, docked, and uninitiated state of consciousness.